Oh, thank you very much. Thanks. I forgot. Other languages can also be used to achieve the same purpose.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true, but it is not on the same level. I don't really know what word to use.
Okay.
But
Can anybody else try? Let's make this class interesting. Let's make the class a little bit interesting, yeah? Can anybody else try? Okay, let me just tell you. SQL is also a programming language like most programming languages. But the drawback for SQL is that it's not a procedure. One, it is not a procedural language. Two, it can't handle iterative processes. At the same time, it cannot do recursive processes. So processes that you set up and then repeatedly they carry out a process, a task. As in other programming languages, you would have things like loops to go round and round and round until a condition is met. SQL that cannot work like that. It doesn't work that way. So these are the drawbacks of SQL with respect to other languages. Whilst most other languages can do that, SQL cannot. But other than that, it is also a programming language. Yeah. Now SQL has got the language is a lot of people will say, when you talk about SQL, a lot of people say it's database. But SQL is not a database. SQL is a database language. It's a language used in databases. Am I making sense? SQL is not database. Database is not SQL. But SQL is used within a database. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Right, okay. Now, there are a number of SQL type languages, or a number of, there are 4 main groups of SQL languages. Now, these are data definite. Let me share my screen so I can start. I don't have slides. I don't teach you slides. I just write on the fly. So let me share my screen so we can start. 1, 2, 3, 4 is share. Where are you? Share. So let me just bring up my notes pad, and then so we say it's a structured query language, right? Structured query language. Right. Now the SQL language is made up of four main sections. We have what we call data definition languages, data definition, data definition. We have data manipulation. So these are notes that I'll send to you after the class. We have data control. Language. We have transaction control language. Right. So these are the 4 main types of SQL. These are the 4 main branches of SQL language. We are not going to look into the first, the third, and the last. Not at all. The reason is okay, let me tell you what these parts are made of. Before I go into before I tell you what these parts are made of, let me just say that SQL it's made up of a number of words. There are what we call reserved words and user-defined words. So SQL made up of reserved words and user-defined words. As you can imagine, these are quite explanatory, right? User-defined. When you say user-defined word, it means it is a word that the user themselves or the users themselves have decided to use in the query. Whereas the reserved words are words that must be used within their part of the structure of SQL. So these are parts that must be used. Now so let me just write here the reserved words associated with these various language types. We have what we call, for this, we have what we call create, which is used in creating tables and creating all other data structures within the database. We have alter, we have drop, we have truncate, we have comment, and we have rename. Now, for the data manipulation languages, we have select. And I must just at this stage say that select is the most common, most used SQL word. You would come across select more than any other SQL word. So we have select, insert, update, delete, merge, call, explain, plan, and yep, that's it. For the data control languages, we have just two, and these two are quite brutal. I see them as very brutal. These are words that give and take. So grant and revoke. So these are words that are used in granting and revoking rights. So they grant you access to a database and at the same time can revoke your rights to the database. Then we have the transaction languages, which are commit, rollback. Some of these words are quite self-explanatory, aren't they? Save point, and then auto commit. So this is just for information purposes. We wouldn't be dealing with most of these. The most important ones that we'll be dealing with are the data manipulation language words. Those are the ones that we would deal with. And even those ones we would only deal with maybe select, insert, and a few other words, which are not main reserved words. There are a few other reserved words associated with each of these main keywords. but we would only be dealing with the select, insert. Probably if we have type update, we wouldn't be deleting, we wouldn't be merge. We could merge. But yeah, these are the words, these are the things we'll be doing. So we'll only be dealing mainly with the second group of words. That's so as a data analyst, remember who was it who teaches us Power BI? Is it Emmanuel or what's the name of
Ebenezer.
this? Oh, Mr. Ebenezer. Yeah, remember he's a data analyst, don't own data. Very, very true. Ours is just to work on the data that we have been given, find insights into the data, and provide what? What is it? Provide insights into the data with a view that management can make better decisions. So that is the job of a data analyst. Now, those who own the data, database administrators, they are the ones who can use or who are most likely to use the other three groups of reserved languages, or the other three groups of query languages, right? So ours would mainly be based on the data manipulation. Apart from that, we even don't have enough time. We can't learn the whole of SQL in, when I say SQL, I mean SQL. We can learn the whole of SQL in the period of this internship. Right. Another thing too is that SQL is, though it is made up of reserved words and user-defined words, it has a very, very flexible structure. It is very flexible in the sense that it is not, unlike most other programming languages, it is not case sensitive. So like most of these things that I've written in caps, if I'm working on a database system, I can as well write them in lowercase. And it wouldn't matter at all. It would produce the same results. So SQL is a very, very flexible language. It's very portable, let me say. Now, remember I said that SQL is not database and database is not SQL, but SQL works within a database. Now, so a database as we would be dealing with is what I would call relational database. Relational database. So are there other databases that are not relational? Yes, there are. There are a whole lot of other databases that are not relational. Now, these databases are what are normally called NoSQL. If anyone has heard of that, NoSQL. It doesn't mean there is no SQL. It simply means that it is non-SQL, non-SQL, NoSQL. That is what it is. So while SQL works within relational databases, NoSQL works outside. It works in databases that are not relational. Now, what do I mean by relational and non-relational? A database system or any database is mainly made up of tables. A database is made up of tables. Okay, let me log into my server, and then I use Microsoft SQL Server. You can use any relational database system. There are a whole lot of relational database systems. We have MySQL, we have DB2, we have is it Postgre? I've forgotten what it's called, but we have a whole lot of database systems. Now, SQL is portable, so it works across almost all these relational database systems. It's very portable. It can work across almost all the relational database systems. So it hasn't got an issue at all, and which is one of the reasons why it is so popular in handling databases. When we are dealing with databases, the commonest language used. There was a language some time ago, but that has been stopped because it wasn't that portable. So SQL is the main now.
Oh, sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Should we like download this app, the Microsoft SQL server?
You can, but like I said, you can use any database. Okay, let me ask this question. How many of us here have got access or have a relational database management system?
Oh no, I don't have one. No.
Right. So if you don't have, you can download this. You can download MySQL. You can download DB2. I'm not sure. I think DB2, it has a version that you have to pay. I'm not sure. I forgot. I'm not sure. But yep, you can actually download this.
Oh, and sorry, I have another question.
Yeah.
So like you said, SQL is like structured query language, but
Yes,
like
structured query language.
yeah. What's the purpose of it? Like I don't really understand that.
What's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
It is used in querying databases.
Wait, sorry, what's a query? I didn't know what that meant at the beginning.
Right. So let me come down to basics.
Okay.
Do you work at the moment?
Oh no, not at the moment, no.
Okay, are you in school?
Yeah.
Okay, assuming you are late to a lecture.
Yeah.
And your lecturer asks you, why are you late?
Yeah.
Will you provide an answer?
Yeah, most likely, yeah. Yes.
So what has the lecturer just done?
Oh, they've asked you a question.
Right.
And
So how is there another word to describe that action of the lecturer?
I mean, there probably is, but it's not in my mind right now.
Yeah, the
They
lecturer
just
has
queried
queried
you.
you. The lecturer has
Queried,
just
yeah,
queried
yeah.
you.
Yeah, has queried you, yeah.
Right. So SQL is a language used in asking questions of a database, out of a database. So you are asking a database to provide you with some information.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is a language used in asking to, let's bring it down to basics. This is a language used in asking questions.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So let me see. Let me go into my databases. Let me go into my tables. Right. So you see here tables. SQL. Relational databases are made up of tables. It is tables that drive databases. It is tables that drive databases. Databases cannot do without tables. So here, for example, I believe you can see my screen, right? Now, this is a database showing, okay, let me go, let me do something else. No, that would not be necessary. This is an HR database showing a database. It's from, look at it from here, SQL HR, right? Underneath that, you have tables. Now, out of the tables, you have these. These are the tables: addresses, courses, dates, columns, employee security, employee work patterns, employees, job history, jobs, mandatory training, marital status, pay elements, training needs, work patterns. So all these are tables within this particular one. There are other tables there. This is another set of tables here. Another set of tables here, right? So it's databases are table dependent. They cannot work without tables. So they have a structure, right? They have a structure. Now, which is why when I said relational database, now within the tables are not just standalone tables. They are related one to another. So this addresses table will be addresses of employees, wouldn't it? Employees would have a job history. Employees will need training. Employees would receive pay. Employees would have work patterns. Some do flexi work, some do part-time, full-time, things like that. So there's a relation between one table and another table. The tables are linked. But in non-relational databases, there are no tables. Information is all over the place. Things are just anywhere and everywhere. For example, when you take pictures, or you send text, you send WhatsApp messages or text messages onto to other people in the server where these things are stored. They are just dumped there. There is no relationship between the message you sent today and the one you sent yesterday. Even if there is, it's not guaranteed that there is a relationship. You may have sent a message to A relating to something. Then you may have sent a message to B relating to something completely different. So there's no relationship between those messages. So the data store for such forms of data is not organized. That is why it's called NoSQL or non-SQL. The full meaning of this is non-SQL. Is that okay? Oh, come on. Non-relational. Non-relational. Right. So let's move on. Like I said, most statements in an SQL statement are case insensitive. Most of these statements are case insensitive. So you can write them anyhow. You can write them anyhow. You can type them anyhow. Lowercase, uppercase, it wouldn't matter at all. However, an exception to this rule is where we have, is that even an exception? I believe literals, what is called literals. We'll come to that later. We'll come to that later. So SQL is free format. However, it is good to observe a few good practices. Free format, because it doesn't matter how you write these keywords. It is portable. It can be used on any relational database management system. But for the sake of good practice, it is good to keep to a certain way of writing your statements. So I personally, and that is a personal choice, when I'm writing my keywords, I write them in caps. When I'm writing any other part of the statement, I write them in lowercase. That is a personal choice. You may choose to do yours whichever way you want. So that's the first thing. Now, the beginning of each clause, or let me say the beginning of each statement, should line up with the beginning of other clauses.
Can you take that again,
We'll
please?
put that, we'll put this in practice and then you would see, okay? So I'm just giving you background at this point. The beginning of each clause should line up with the beginning of other clauses under the same statement. If a clause has several parts, they should each appear on a separate line and be indented under the start of the clause to show the relationship. Again, we would put this in practice and you would see. Right. So like I said, we will
Sorry, can you say that again? If the clause has
Can I say
several
that
parts.
again?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Each clause in a statement should begin on a new line. That's the first. Each clause should begin on a new line. That means each statement should begin on a new line. The beginning of each clause should line up with the beginning of other clauses within the same statement. If a clause has several parts, they should each appear on a separate line and be indented under the start of the clause before it to show the relationship between the two or more. We will put this in, when we put this in practice, you will see what I mean. Right? For the sake of readability, for the sake of readability, ease of readability, for the sake of having a nice code, writing nice codes, for the sake of making your job clean. Like I said, I choose to write my reserved words in caps, while the user-defined words I write in lower case. But if you choose to write your reserved words in lowercase, it wouldn't matter at all. Is that okay? Now, like I said, DML data manipulation. And now the keywords we would be dealing with are all the words here. Select, insert, update, delete. These four, sorry, are the main ones actually. These four are the main ones, most commonly used ones. And the most common SQL word is the select word. You will come across that more than any other word if you are dealing with SQL. Now, how does the general select statement look like? How does the general select statement look like?
Sultani has his hand up. I don't know if you want.
Pardon?
Sultani has. Oh, he's taking it down. Never mind.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Can you see my screen though?
Oh, yes, I
Did I
can.
make this bigger? I think it's better this way, isn't it? It was too small then. So generally, how does the select statement look like? First of all, we have select. Now let me take this out. We have select. Select. Now, select can be in a variety of forms. I'm just forget about what I'm going to write now. Forget about it. I would explain as we move on, yeah? Distinct. The select is followed by from. This must be followed rigorously. Now, what do you select? When you say select, what are you selecting? That's why I put, so these things here, distinct and all, are those things that you are selecting. Now, from where are you selecting what you want to select? Remember, I showed you tables. I said it. We write our queries on tables. You are querying a table or a number of tables. So when you write your select, you want what you are selecting to be from a table. So you need to name the table that you are selecting from. So, table. Right? You need to select the table name, and sometimes you can give your table name. In fact, as you progress and write a lot of SQL, you would come to use aliases a lot. You cannot do without aliases. And I would explain that as we move along. These two states, okay, let's finish. The next is where. Now, the where is a condition that must be followed by your selection. Where. Then you have group by. Now, so when you have selected whatever information you need, you don't just, assuming I ask you to tell me the list of, assuming I ask you to provide me a list of employees, assuming you are employed by, let's say, Tesco. Are we all in the UK? No, some people are in Nigeria, right? Okay, assuming you are Unilever is is a multinational, isn't it? So let me use Unilever. Assuming you're employed by Unilever and your manager asks you to provide for him or her the list of all employees in the organization, right? All employees in the organization, and show all the employee, a list of employees in the organization who are married and who are single. How will you present your data to your manager? Will you just produce a list, one list of everybody, and then married mixed with single anywhere, everywhere? I am sure you would want to group all the married people and group all the single people, right? So that is where group by comes in. So group by, you grouping by your column lists. You group along. I haven't explained column, have I? I think Mr. Emmanuel explained column to us when we were doing Power BI. He called it field. If you remember, the fields that we deal with, the fields where we select. So it's the same thing. Column can also be called field, right? Column list. I'll show you an example of column in a bit. But I believe we are all conversant with Excel spreadsheets. Are we? Are we conversant with Excel spreadsheet? I don't want to open this one. I have some.
Yes.
Yeah. So you would see that in an Excel spreadsheet, for example, okay, let me just open this one. I have some sensitive information here. Okay, doesn't matter. Let me open another one. What's happening? I think it's loading, eh? Okay, let me just use, okay, let me just use this one. Let me just use this one. Okay, I think I've, oh dear. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, all of these are columns. All of these are columns, right? These are rows. Rows, so whatever you have in here are rows of data. So these are the columns, right? Okay, so now we know what columns are. If you would kindly, very kindly minimize this for, or let me just close it. So let's go on. Group by. So you choose a column list, how you want to group your information. Having is next, based on a certain criteria. So this filters your information, your data. It filters the group subject to some condition. Then we have order by. We order by column lists. Okay, let's go on. So now we are going to start doing some real SQL. Right. We're now going to start doing applying this. You can only it becomes clearer when you put it in practice, when you see it practically. While this is the format in which your query should look like, it is not every time that you would have all of these. So we have how many lines here? How many rules? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6, but not all 6 are mandatory. The only ones that are mandatory are the first 2. Every other one is dependent on requirements. Right? The first 2 you cannot do without. So they are mandatory. Right. So let's see if we can write some statements. One. Let me just go into my If I look at okay, let me do something. Forget about what I'm going to do now. Forget about what I'm doing. I just want to find out something. Okay. So these are the columns we have for this query that I've just written. We have person ID, employee number, start date, end date, title, forename, surname, birth date, gender, address ID, date time added, date time modified. Right. We can decide to say that for this particular thing that I've written here, we can write it in 2 forms. Remember when I wrote this? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay. When I wrote this, I said I'll come back to this. Select. I said I'll come back to this here. Right. So that's what I'm doing now. Now, we can decide to, in this select statement, in our select statement, we can decide to specify each of these column headers. So remember I said earlier on that when we are selecting, we select from a column. Now the column header, person ID, is what specifies the data you have within the column. So you are selecting, I can decide to say that, well, let's select person ID. It's not a keyword, so I change that person ID. You should give me select person ID, employee number. Employee number. Start date. Start date. End date. Title. We can continue like that, right? We can continue like that. Now, have we finished with this? When we have this, have we finished? I have commented this out, so this is not going to work now. Have we finished? If I write just this, does it make sense? I have left out something, the second part of it, the other mandatory part from. Remember, I told you that is mandatory. Right?
Sorry, Godwin. What did
Yes.
you do to the first set of commands?
Pardon?
What did you do to the ones that are green? What does that mean?
I have commented it out, so it's not going to. I want a word to use. I have put them out of action.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Now I can continue with this. So where are we? Title, right? Forename, surname. Let me add forename and surname. Forename, surname, birthday. Oh, for the sake of time, let me just run this query. Where did we stop? We stop at birthday, surname, right? We stop at surname. So let's see what is going to happen here. It has produced person ID, employee number, start date, end date, title, forename, surname, in the order that I have written them here. So I could have continued and would have gotten everything. I could have continued and would have gotten everything as I wanted. If I run this now, like the first one, so the first one we had up to where birthday, gender, all of this in there. So what do you see here? When you write a statement like this, you can write a statement like this, like I have here, and then put all the column headers. I can put all the column headers one by one, and it will produce the results. The same as this. So you see, this is a shorter form of writing it. It is nicer, more efficient, less time consuming, and obviously you have time to do other things. So this select star is the same as select all. Select all, which is the statement that I wrote here. You want to select all, you are selecting everything, right? So select star means the same as select all. These two things mean the same. Right, so our first query is to select all columns and rows. That is our first query. That's what I wanted to write. Query 1. Select all columns and rows. So you use either this or that to select all columns and rows, right? So let's make this, I'll rather make this A and that B. This is the primitive form. That's the primitive form. And that is the more algebra form, right? So when we use the asterisk here means all. Right. Now we can restrict the number of rows that we want to select. And this is very, very important. This point I'm going to mention here is very, very important. A possible interview scenario. A possible interview scenario. So what is that for? Restricting the number of rows selected. Who wants to work for Facebook or Google? Okay. So data analyst, who said me?
Yeah.
I can't see hands up because I'm presenting.
Miriam.
So Miriam. Okay, Miriam, answer this question. You have been employed by Facebook, right? To manipulate their data as a data analyst. You have been employed to help the business understand where they should target most for profitability. So you are presented with their whole database and you want to find out which areas are most profitable. And you've been asked to run a query on the database. What will be the first thing you do?
I assuming that I've been given the data. Okay.
If you can speak up a bit, please.
So the assumption is I've been given a data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm gonna do is to look at the area that has more
But
tendency.
how will you know the area? You must do something before you even start talking about the area.
The area. Okay.
And this thing, Mr. Emmanuel mentioned it in the class, actually. Okay, let me help you. You must know your data. You must understand what you have in your data. How do you understand your data? How do you know what you have? An example is right in front of you. This. So when you see this table, for example, it tells you that this is a table about people. The people are likely to be employees because we have an employee number. The people have a start date because it is stated here. Then some of them have an end date here. You can know their gender, but from their title, you know their first names, their surnames. You can know their date of birth, and you probably would know their addresses. And you know time when this data was imputed into the system. Right. So this gives you an idea of the data that you are going to be dealing with. But that's all it does. Now, And which is the most important thing that you need? You need to understand what data you have. You need to understand, you need to know your data. Now, so I asked the question and I intentionally chose Facebook. How many customers has Facebook got?
I think 2 billion.
2 billion. Beautiful. Right. So if Facebook conservative, what's the population of the world? It's more than 2 billion. Oh. The world is like 7, is it 7 or 6 billion? And I'm sure more than half of the world is on Facebook.
Yeah.
What's the population of the world? Who
7
knows?
billion.
7, yeah?
8 billion.
Okay.
Like
I'm
7
sure
billion.
about 5 billion people are on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 4. 5, 4, I don't know. Right, so Facebook gives you all of this data. And then you go and run select all from persons on Facebook. Obviously, the from will be from the table that stores data about their customers, okay? So select, you can decide to, you don't know what is in the good thing about this statement is that in the beginning, you don't even know what the column headers are. So you can't go and start imputing these column headers one by one. You need to have an idea. Though this and that are the same thing, they are one and the same, but in the beginning, you really don't know what is there, which is what makes the star select star statement very, very powerful. Because at a snapshot, it gives you an idea of what you have in your columns. But should you now let it run freely like that? So if you were working on Facebook database and you go and run select all from whatever table, chances are that you are going to return 4 billion rows of data. Now, can you imagine, do you have the computing capacity to hold that number of records? What could be the likely consequence of that action? Can anyone tell us? The system, can anyone tell us?
Crash.
The system
might
will crash. The system will crash. Chances are that the system will crash. Now, the reason why I am able to do that here, and probably you would also be able to do on many databases, is because this one has just got 136 rows. Look at it here, down here on the bottom right. It tells you how many rows there are. 136 rows. So it's pretty small. So it doesn't matter at all. Within the snapshot, I have my results. But if I were to run the same query on Facebook database, and I dare run a select all, we could be on that, we could be waiting for results for 1 week, and computers will stop working because they've crashed, right? So the best thing, when you don't know about what you have in the database, you don't know about the data, even if you want to do a select all, restrict the number of rows. How do you do that? How do you restrict the number of rows? So I'm going to take this again.
Sorry, Godwin.
Yep.
Some of us have our hands up.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Who is that?
So myself and Sultani.
Yes. Can you ask your question?
So my question is on the first line where you have query 1 and you put select all columns and row. Is that not a command because there's no from following that?
No, it's not a command.
No,
It's
it's
just
not.
like I've written restricted. You see that I've graded out query 1.
Right.
This
Okay.
is the query. This is the actual query I wrote. 1A, 1B. Or these are
Okay.
the actual queries.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So this is still under 1, right?
Right.
1C is still under 1. If I go to the second type of query, I'll change it to 2. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Sultani
No,
has his hand up.
actually, I've even done 2 here already. 1A that I did here, it's actually my second, but we'll look at that again. So, what have I done here? Restricting that. So let's see how we would do this.
Sultani is still got his hand up.
Oh,
Sorry.
whose hand is up again?
Sultani.
Sorry.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, Sultana.
Also, oh yeah, so sorry, my computer's having a bit of trouble to like upload this site. So do you mind sending the link on Telegram? Because I can't
Uploading what?
understand it. Getting like the Microsoft SQL server.
Forget about that for now. You
Okay,
don't have,
okay.
even if you have it, you wouldn't have a database in it. You wouldn't have data in it yet.
Okay, thank you.
So forget about that. Let's focus on this, right?
Yeah, thank you.
And later you can download whatever you want to download and
Okay,
put some
thank you.
data in there. So let's see what we have. Select. But instead of select all, you want to restrict the rows. Select top 7. Sorry, top 7. Select all from top 7 rows. All from top 7 rows. So if we run this now, what do you think? How many rows do you think we would have? Let's see. Let's just see. Do you see that? So this gives us just 7 records because we have specified 7. I can make it 10 and it would record 10. Oh, no. Okay. Let me. Do you know why this is happening? It's because this is also running. So I'm just going to run this one. 10. Right? I can make it 15 and it will return 15. But let me just keep it at 7. Right? Now, essentially, at this point, you are only interested in knowing your data, what things you have inside your data. That's what your interest is. You don't want to go and do a select all and crash an organization's computing system or deny other users of access. Because mind you, if your query does take up a lot of computing space, chances are that you might not only crash, you would also be denying other people access. So these are considerations that need to be made when you go into an organization for the very first time. And which is why I said it is a common interview question. What kind of query would you run if we give you our database? How will you know what is in the database? You would do a select query, but you would restrict the number of rows, bearing in mind that if you happen to give it an open reign, then you could possibly crash the computing system or deny other people access. Right. So our second type of query, in fact, we have already done query 2. That is selecting specific roles. So here, what I actually, in 1A, what I wanted to do was to do all the, so I would have added birth dates, gender, address, date time modified, and everything would have come out. Do you get what I'm saying? Everything would have come out as before. So if I were to, so this is actually what I wanted to do here.
Okay, I have a question, Godwin.
Yes, please.
Okay, so can we say that the top 7 you added to the query you just finished sending, or you just finished executing, is a user-defined word? Is there a possibility? I mean, to be specific, the top.
Or whether the
7.
top is user-defined.
Yeah.
The top is not user-defined. I think we can also use the word limits. Let me try limits. Let's try limits and see. I think limit 7. I'm not sure about limits. I don't know why it's underlined. Maybe it's been deprecated. Invalid command. Okay. It used to be okay. It used to be a valid command, but it's now, I think it's been deprecated. It used to be a valid command. I think it's no more used. So this is actually what I wanted to run here. Have I answered your question? I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, you have. It means that it's a command in the SQL and so on. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
So this one here restricts the, pardon?
Sorry, can I ask the question?
Yes, please go ahead.
So, going by what you're doing, the first few ones that you've executed, yeah. So
I can't hear you.
can you hear me? Is it better now?
It looks, it's
Speaking to
slightly
my
better.
computer. So what I was trying to say is the queries that you've executed, the ones at the top. Okay. So at what point, I mean, how do I report this? Okay.
At what point?
Are they still working? Like,
Oh, you mean you see that I've put what is it called? What are these lines called? Come on. When you want a word, that's when it escapes you, isn't it? These hyphens.
Is it middle score, underscore?
No, these are not underscore. These are not under. They are hyphens. Now they are also used in commenting out.
Yeah, like you just commented out that part.
Yeah, like I just commented
for it to
out.
be inactive.
I could also have used this one. This one can also be used. Sultania, I've seen your hands. One moment. I can also use this to comment out. This is also commenting out.
So when you're commenting out, what does that mean?
You make it ineffective. It's not. It doesn't work anymore. That part that is commented doesn't work. So you see, I have. Let me take this out. I have this now. You see, this has got different colorations.
That's actually one.
Can you see the different colors?
Yeah.
Right. These ones are all green, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So these green ones are commented out. So when I run a query, though the queries are there, because they have been commented out, they have become ineffective, and only this one would run.
So can you go back to them?
Oh, of course. I can go back to them. I can go back if I take these off.
Yeah, I think. All right. Okay, thank you.
If I take these off, we have, yeah. Okay. So that's that. And you see, if I just happen to run this, you see that both it will produce results for this and that. If I run this too, can you see that it has produced two results? The first for, because this one was the first for this and then that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's produced two results. Where did we stop? So query 2, I want to hear. So query 2 is actually when you want to restrict the number of columns that you want to produce, right? You want to restrict, you are selecting. So instead of even going by this, I can say select person ID. Select person ID. Let me take this again. Select person ID, first name, forename. Person ID, forename, surname. Forename. Surname.
Can I ask a question about the entry, please?
About what?
So the what you're typing.
Yes,
So
please.
is it important that you keep the case the same as your table header, or does it not matter? So for example, if on the table the forename is written in like maybe the F is capital and everything else is lowercase. If I'm writing my command, do I have to write it the same way, or it doesn't matter?
Very good question. Let's try it. Let's try, but let's do this first and then we'll try it, yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Let me comment these out. Let me use the other way of commenting. This one does it in block. Right, so I've commented these ones out. So if I run this, I only have person ID. That's what I've told it to return. Person ID, forename, surname. That's all. So it's giving me what I asked it to give me. Do you get that? Right? Now, somebody asked a beautiful question. I love that question, actually. Because let's do this. And we are going to experiment some more things with that. Let me comment this out so that we see exactly what is running. Have we gotten the same results? Yes, we have.
Yes, but it's
Yes, we
changed to
have
the
the same
name.
results, only that it does change this to that. However, if you happen to do this, if you happen to do this, it's even underlined. It wouldn't even let you do it. It wouldn't let you do it, but I just wanted to experiment to see, right? It wouldn't let you do it. But if you were to run this, to come up with an error straight away. To come up with an error because it doesn't recognize this thing here because of the spelling mistakes. So, and that brings us to what I mentioned about literals. The words must be spelled exactly the same as they are in the database. Remember I mentioned literals when I started the introduction? Your words must be spelled exactly the same as they are in the database.
Sorry, Godwin, I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my question is the putting space between the words like select persons underscore ID, comma, space, forename, comma, space. Are they command? Is that
No,
is that space, that comma,
no, it's
is
not.
it
It's not a
important?
command.
Okay.
It's not a command. Okay.
So I can
I could have written this way. Remember what I said about things being on the same. When I started, I said each clause in a statement should begin on a new line. The beginning of each clause should line up with the beginning of other clauses. Right? You remember that statement? So let's take these out. Oops. And let's take that out. Okay. If we run this, we'll get the same thing. Let's see if we'll get the same thing. Does it produce the same thing? So
yes.
the answer to that is that those spaces are not commands. They are just to make your code nice and beautiful. But this format, if I decide to write it like this, it must follow. These are all person ID, forename said they are within this, they are under this select statement. So these here, which have started from a different line, must follow each other. It can only change if I move into another form of statement. Do you get that?
Yeah. But so can I ask one more question now? From
Yes.
this, from the clause there, can we write everything together without putting comma, without putting space in between?
Let's try it. I like to try things. Because we said SQL is free format, right? Let's try it. Straight away, you see that it is thrown an exception. It's underlined. So what has happened? It's telling you that no, you have to put a comma there. It's telling you that something is wrong. So when you are arranging this way, your comma separated values must come, right?
So thank you.
Okay. What's the next thing we do? Right. So the third type of query that we want to run is use of distinct. Remember, we spoke about this. We said distinct and all. Distinct and all. When do we use distinct? Okay, let's see. Let's see an example of it. Use of distinct. Should you still training is training under?
Oh, sorry.
I want to choose another table. Pardon, yes, somebody wants to ask something.
Oh, sorry, wait. What do you need the asterisk for? Like, what's its use?
Pardon, the asterisks?
Yeah, what's its use? Yeah.
Which one?
Like,
Which of the asterisks are you talking about?
like asterisk, like the little sign on top, the one on line 26, and on like
Oh,
yeah.
this is I use this to comment out this whole block here. See the starts and the end.
Oh, okay, thank you. So it's like
Yeah.
comment. It's like Oh, okay, now I understand. Yeah, thank
So
you.
instead of this, I could have done that. But you see, that's time consuming, isn't it?
Yeah, I see. I understand. Yeah.
And then I'll take this out. Could have done that. So use of distinct. This is also very, very, very important. But before we do that, let's see this. So that is, which one is this? Query 2. This is query 2. We go to query 3. I'm not sure we can finish all our, I'm not sure we can finish the basics, the foundational, this thing today. Maybe we have just like 28 minutes. We need like another hour and a half. Query 3. Query 3, use of distinct. Before we do this distinct thing, let's just look at, so I'm going to choose another table. We've been working with employee table. I'm going to choose this table. Let's run this and see what we have. Another thing I want to point out to you is this. Assuming I had this open, assuming I hadn't commented these out, all of these, right? Assuming I hadn't commented any at all out, and I just want to run a particular query, I can also highlight it and run. Do you get that? So as it is now, if I were to run these, you see these two are open, this and that are open, right? If I run these two, if I run now, we would have two results produced, this and that. We have a result here, we have another result here. But if I were just to select this, if I were to highlight just this one and execute, we would have just one result produced. So instead of giving yourself the headache of commenting out, you can do this also. Is that okay?
So that means by simply highlighting whatever you want, whichever query you want to see,
Yeah.
it will recognize that query as the present one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I chose to do it that way so that there's no confusion at all in our minds as to which query we are running. Okay. So look at this carefully. Look at this carefully. Can anybody tell me, what can you tell me about this query that we've run? Okay, let me narrow down my question. What can you tell me about the course ID?
About what? Sorry, about what you said about something you used as the language of that.
I can't hear you. Who is speaking?
This is Miriam.
Okay, what can you say about the course ID?
Wait. Course ID, they're almost the same number.
There are other numbers there, but you see a lot of repetition, don't you?
Yeah.
And you see it, so that when you have repetition in a data in a query like this, all it means is that there is a lot of redundancy. And as a data analyst, you want to do away with redundancy. You don't want it. You don't want redundancy in your life. You want to be on point. Oops, what have I done? I didn't want to delete that. Delete. So let's see what we can do to remove redundancy. Okay. Right, okay. I've done this first, but let's see. Select, let me do this. Select course ID. Course ID. If we run this alone, we get the course IDs, just the course IDs. Is that efficient? It's not an efficient query, is it? If your manager asks you to run a report to see how many courses you are running, will you send them this report? 1. How many courses? They just ask a simple question. How many courses are we running in this college? How many courses are we running in Blue Sky Citadel? Are you going to tell them that because Juliet, Dio, Miriam, everybody is, you start listing? They didn't ask you to list all who is doing which course. They just say, how many courses are we running? That is where the keyword distinct comes into play. And let's see how we can use it. I have removed something again here, haven't I? Why am I being naughty today? Let's see what we can do with this.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Does Ctrl Z not work in this SQL?
Oh, it does. It works.
Okay.
Distinct. Select distinct course ID from training. And let's run this and see. Do we see that? We have 7 courses. Course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Only 7 courses. Not that long list that we had earlier on. So this brings about what? Efficiency. The distinct keyword is used in removing redundancy. So you just have one of a species of one of a kind of whatever it is that you have in your database, right? So course ID, we have, pardon?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay, so in this case, when we know that we have 7 courses, so how do we know the numbers of people attending course 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7?
How do we
Is there a
know?
possibility? I mean, how do you know the numbers of people attending the course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7?
That's not the question. The question here is, how many courses are there? When we did this, select all from trading, we got the people who are doing which courses. This person here, mind you, this person here, person ID, and we will, as we progress, we will learn how to link the tables. This is one table. We can link this table to the person's table. This is the trading table, right? This is the trading table. So in the trading table, it only has the trading ID and the person ID, then the course ID. It hasn't got the person name and full name, surname and full forename, right? But we can link this table here, the trading table, to the employee table to get which employee is doing which course. Do you get that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Remember I said the tables are related. That's why it's called relational database. They are related. The tables have got relationships. And if I must also say, for example, this is the training table. In the training table, you see training ID. The training ID is also called the what is the name? Why do I forget when I need to remember?
It's a serial number, you.
No, it's not serial number. I won't call it serial number. Primary key, sorry. Yeah, primary key. This is the primary key. In the training table, the training ID is the primary key. When you bring another ID from another table into a table, so the person ID is from the person's table or the employee's table, right? The person ID is from the employee table. You've brought another ID from another table into another. You've brought an ID from another table into a table. This ID is your secondary ID. This is your primary key. That's your secondary key. You can relate. There's a relationship between your primary key and your secondary key. That is how they can be linked. Okay, we will come across. We will talk about that later. Maybe in our third. Pardon?
I have a question, please.
Yes, please.
So when you're linking tables, so those tables individually, they are like individual sets of data, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
The employee table is
it's
the
different.
employee.
Yeah.
Where is it? Employee table
Uh-huh.
it's a table on itself.
Right. So when you're linking the tables together, if so, say for example, the training table is in a particular order. So let's say the person ID 134 is on number row 12, for example. So if you're linking another table with it, is SQL smart enough to order it accordingly, or how would it deal with that? I don't know if you get my question.
Okay.
Should I rephrase?
I think I kind of have an idea.
Okay.
You see, there are 3 keys here, actually. In fact, there are 4, a matter of fact. There are 4 keys: training ID, person ID, course ID, trainer ID. These are all primary keys in their respective tables.
Okay.
Training ID, person ID, course ID, trainer ID. They are primary keys in their respective tables. Now, when I bring the way they relate is, you said is SQL smart enough? Yes, it is. It is smart enough. If your query is right, it would link up the tables and produce which person is taking which course and who the trainer is. It can link them up perfectly. It can
Okay.
link them up perfectly,
Thank
so
you.
perfectly. Let me see something. I don't know. Let me see something. Do you see this? This is a link. This is what links now. This here shows the link between this table and that table. Shows the link between this table and that table. Right, that is the link. That's how they are linked.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
So we are on query 3. So distinct. Are we clear with the distinct keyword?
Sorry, excuse me, please. I have a
Yes,
question.
please. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So, what's the difference between using a Tableau, a Power BI, and an SQL or SQL, or
You know
my
what?
SQL or something?
You know what?
Yes.
Tableau and Power BI, I'm also just studying them like you, my brother.
Oh, okay.
I'm also just studying them.
But it's like they're similar. They do the same thing.
They are similar. They are very similar, I think. But I'm still waiting to
Well,
see.
sorry, I wouldn't say they're similar because SQL is not going to visualize
No,
your
not
data.
I said Power BI and I'm referring to Power BI and Tableau, not SQL.
Oh, okay.
SQL is completely different.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But then we have tables in the two Power BI and Tableau. They too have the tables. In fact, the link I just showed you is from Power BI.
Yeah, that
is
was
from
why
Power
I
BI.
asked. That was why I asked, because I was wondering if SQL has the same thing.
Yeah, SQL has the same thing. I only don't want to get out of this page, but it has the same thing.
Okay.
That's how tables are linked. It's either they are linked one to one, one to many, or many to many. Like this one here that I just showed you. You see one here. Do you see one here? And then you see that? That means one to many. That's what it means. One to many. If it was same star, that would be many to many. And they all have their different meanings. We will not go into that in this right. So let's move ahead. Now we're going to look at calculated fields. How do we start performing some calculations? Query 4. But before we do a calculated field, let's run another query. Let's say we select. Let's choose another table. I know my database is not big enough, so I can confidently and conveniently do a select all or select star. So select all from, because we want to do calculations, what kind of data do you think we need?
Primary key.
No. What type of data?
Numerical data.
Numerical data. So obviously you can see that I can't do calculations on these queries. I can't. Or even if I can, it will be very, very restricted. So let's choose another table. We can do calculations on pay, right? How much somebody earns in a month, in a year, in a week, that kind of thing. We can do that. So this is another table, a table called pay elements. So if we run this query here, I have the kind of pay they get and the value of their pay. I have those on salaries. I have those on hourly pay. So I can easily do calculation. If someone works for 20 hours, I can calculate how much pay they would get. Do you get that? Those on salary, this is, salary is usually the annual, if your salary is being quoted, it is usually quoted annually. So I can calculate their monthly income. Do you get that? Right, so let's see if we can, instead of all of these, we can just restrict the number of columns that we want to produce so that we get rid of the fluff in the query. Things that we don't need. When I say the fluff, I just mean those things that we don't need. Right? So what are the things we need here? We need the person ID. We need the pay element. We need the pay element ID. We need the pay value. Do we need the pay type? Not at this stage, but we need so as to know who is getting what. Let's also get the person's ID. So select, what do we want to select?
Question, Godwin.
Yes, ask a question, please.
Sorry to interrupt. I noticed that whenever you run a command and you want to run another one, you basically write it again and write a new command. Is it not possible to edit a command that has already been executed?
Okay, the reason why I'm doing that is I'm writing these as notes, which I'm going to forward to you.
Okay.
So
But
if I were to do that, you wouldn't get the full notes that I would love you to have.
okay. I was just wondering if it was possible to do that. Yeah.
Yes, it's possible to do that. So
Okay.
I could just have edited this without having to come here. Yeah. So select pay elements. Pay element ID, select pay. And another thing that I haven't mentioned is you need to, in SQL, you always need to put an underscore between words. Okay. Pay elements. SQL was originally called eSQL. Originally, I think SQL came up in 1975 or somewhere thereabout. And I think it was originally called Structured English Query Language. So you need to write it out It started by it was the people who came up with Sql are from this part of the world. So they started writing the language in English. So it was originally called structured English query language. Then as it got taken by other people, the English was dropped, and then it just became SQL. So you need to put underscores between the words. Person ID and pay value. I don't want to take pay type because I don't really need it in my calculation. So if we just run this, we see what we have. We just have this, which is quite neat and tidy, and then we can run query. This is all that we need. This is what we need. So we can actually run a query on this pay value here to see how much people earn in a month. And if we're going to, these are annual, for those on salary, there are a lot of people on hourly pay. As you can see, all this, nobody will be on 11.81 per year. No. 11 pounds 81. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So these ones all are hourly pay. But at this point, let's not stress ourselves into differentiating hourly pay from salaried pay. In time, we will know how to do that. And that might be today or the next lesson. So let's see how we can do this. Select pay element, person ID, pay value. And if we want to find the monthly salary, what do you think we should do? For those on salary, what do you think we should do?
Yeah, I think we would divide the annual payment by 12.
Beautiful. So all we do is divide pay value by 12. Pay value by 12. And that would give us, let's run this and see what we have. These values here are going to be funny, but forget about them for now, okay? Forget about them. Just concentrate on the first 8. So this person here earns 4,583 pounds a month. Whoops. This one, 2,583. Like that. This one, 3,500 and 500. Right? There's a lot we can do with the values we have here. But let's go bit by bit. Now, one important thing you would notice is that Sql didn't give this column a name. No column name. We can give this column a name. You just name it immediately after what it is that you want to name using the word as. Using the word as. So pay value, where did we do? Oh, I copied the wrong thing. Okay, let me add this one to it. So this one as monthly salary. Now watch what is going to happen. You would see that here we have column, no column name. Let's see what is going to happen when we run this query now. Monthly salary. The only thing that has changed is the column name. We now have a column name. So we can give the column a name. Okay? We can give the column a name. And also another thing, you see, I said we should forget about this for now, but let's look at it in brief. It's not yet time for me to look at it critically, but let's just look at it in brief by adding another keyword. By adding another keyword. How do we, remember we said if we want to add, so what I want to do here is just to produce those on salary. We want to take out all those who are on hourly pay. Okay? Because it doesn't make sense. When we run this person on monthly salary, how much is the person? And not even up to not even up to £1. 87p. That's what the person earns in a year, whole year. My God. I don't think there's any country where anybody can survive on 87p a year. Right. So what we're going to do next is to see if we can take out the those on hourly pay. And let's go back to what we did here. We said the where clause is used to give a condition. You see that we are now taking these one by one. The where clause is used in giving a condition. So what condition do we want to apply here so as to take out those who are not on salary? Okay, let's go back into this. Let's run this again and see. Let's run this again and see. Pay, element pay, value pay. Let's run this again and see. Let's run this query again. So that we know exactly what we want to take out. Those on hourly pay, where do we find hourly pay? Those on hourly paid. Which column provides that information?
The pay type.
Pardon?
The pay type.
Pay type. Beautiful. The pay type. That is the column that provides that information. So that is what we want to take out. So if we want to take out, then our where condition should be what? Where pay type. We only want to show the pay type that is salaried. Salaried. Pay type is salaried. Okay. Pay type is salaried. Why is this underlined?
I was thinking
Okay.
hourly pay. Pay.
Pardon?
I was thinking it should be hourly paid.
Why should it be hourly paid?
Because that's what we're trying to
Read
figure
the
out.
statement very well.
Good type is
We
what-
are selecting. We want to select pay elements, pay ID, person ID, pay value, monthly salary from pay element. This is what we want to select.
Okay.
Where pay type is what? We want those who are on salary. Mind you, we are looking for monthly salary, okay?
Okay.
Now, who can tell me why this is underlined?
Because it's a.
Error. It's an error query.
Do we need to
Are you sure
check
it's an
it?
error? Look at the word carefully.
Salary.
Salaried is the same spelling, but why is it underlined?
I think there should be comma there or something.
No?
Quotation mark.
Beautiful
Yeah.
quotation. It's a string, so it should be it should be in quotations. It's a string. Later on, if we have time, we will talk about data types. Or in fact, we will talk about string handling, definitely. So no problem. So it's a string, so it has to be in quotations. So when we run this, you would see what would happen. We only have those who are on monthly salary. We only have those who are on monthly salary. Mind you, we have more than 8. It's only 8 that were showing in the top part earlier on. There were some on salary that were down in the previous results, right? So this is what we have. We have taken out all those who are on hourly pay. We've taken them out, and we only have people who are on salaries. All these are on salary. Yeah. Any questions so far? We have one more type of query to run. Oh, sorry, not to run, to study, but that type alone can take like another hour or more. So I think we should rather stop here and continue from here next week. But at this point, I think I'm open for questions.
I have a question.
Yes,
So
please.
SQL is a query language.
Yes, please.
So does it have any output? Like, so you know how in Power BI and Tableau, their visualization, you can show that to the stakeholders that this is what their data is saying. But for SQL, is that primarily for the data analyst purpose to understand the data?
No. You can so for example, this query that we run, this is the output. If you like, you can capture this and then use it in whatever you want to use it in. Yeah.
Okay.
This is an output.
Yeah, but you would only be able to report raw data. No visualization, just raw data. Okay, thank you.
But I think actually, yeah, here you can when you write a query, just to understand you, sometimes the output you get may not actually be what's in the table. For example, you can create a column.
I can't hear you.
When you can hear me.
Not very well.
What about now?
It's slightly better.
Okay. So I was just saying that in SQL, sometimes when you run the query, you can use it to create columns that are not in the original table. For example, when you said select as monthly salary, and then I saw that in places like Tableau, you can actually link your SQL to the Tableau. So I think when you run a query like this, you can link it to the Tableau so that
yes, if you are linked
to
a visualization tool, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. But you see, with this one, these here are just temporary tables. The result here that we have produced does not affect anything in these permanent tables here.
That's what I'm saying.
So these are temporary. Once we get out of this vanishes. But if you are linked to a visualization tool, then you can extract this straight away. Mind you, you see in your in Power BI or Tableau, you can extract data from one of the sources of data is SQL. Remember?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so you can extract and use it in a visualization.
So can you then, so this output that has been made, that is in a way we manipulated the raw data to create the extra column and all of that. Can we save that within SQL for?
No, you can't.
Oh, you can't. Right.
No, you can't.
Okay, so you can't refer to it at a later date.
No, you can't.
Right. Okay.
That's why I said these results here are temporary. This is a temporary table. It is not a permanent one. Now you can't manipulate anything here with a select statement. There are other statements for making changes to your table. There are other keywords for doing that. Updates, you can, and even updates can only update. For example, you want to maybe add somebody onto a record. You want to create another record for you want to create a new record, so you want to update. Right. But the most important thing is to make a significant change, to create another table within the table here, you will need the word create. Right? You will need the word create to do that. But like I said, we are not database administrators. So we may not. We can have an idea. It's good if we have an idea as to how to create tables. And we probably would do that. It's good for us to have an idea as to I wouldn't ever ask you to go and drop a table. If you drop a table, wahala day, problem don't land. Drop is even worse than delete.
What does drop mean? What does it do?
It gets rid of the table completely.
And you cannot control it back.
If you get it back, you must be some kind of guru.
I mean, that's what Control Z does.
Hmm?
I said, I mean, that is what Control Z does. It brings it back.
Are you sure? You think it's everything that Control Z?
I'm asking a question that
Control Z cannot do that. Once you drop, you drop. It's just like you delete, even if you, ordinarily, if you delete a file on your computer, if you do Control Z, do you think you will get it?
I can always pick it from the
You have to go into your recycling, what is it called? Recycling bin.
Yeah.
To retrieve, right? But when you drop a table, it even goes out of your recycling bin. But when you delete, you can retrieve. But when you drop, that is serious.
I have a question.
Yes.
As data analyst, is it part of our job to create things like ERD diagram, or that's
to create what?
Database entity relationship diagram?
It's not part of our job. We don't own the data. We only work with what we are given. The data we are not custodians of the data. Custodians of the data, and that's the data administrators would manipulate, would do data definition on the data. In fact, data definition will mainly be done maybe mostly also by data engineers, right? The data engineers, they would do that. And then the data administrators would also do some of it. But data analysts, ours is just to manipulate what they give us, manipulate it and use it anyhow we like.
Okay, so in relation to the Sprint One project, you know, they were asked to create a mentorship website. So I'm just thinking from the
Which
angle
project is that?
Sprint One.
What's the name of the
They were asked to create a mentorship website.
which group?
All groups.
Almost all the groups.
Oh, is that? Okay, cool, okay.
So from the angle of presenting as a data analyst, I'm just thinking, you know, we don't really have the data and we're just at the initial stage of creating the website. So as a data analyst, when you're in a project like that, can you say, okay, I have sample data that I'm working with in order to test how the website will function? Is that allowed?
Your question again.
For the project. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We don't really have any data that we're working with right now. So I'm just saying that as a data analyst, when you are a part of a project and you don't have any data available to you about that data, is it allowed for you to get sample data for you to work with in order to simulate how it's going to actually work out when you get
Oh yes, you
data?
can do that. And in fact, in Blue Sky, it is actually encouraged. And let me tell you just a story. The group that's were doing data analysis before our group. That is it 2 or 3? Should I say 2 or 3 groups before? So 2 groups before. That is where this mentorship website started. That's when this mentorship website started. And the data analysts in that group, it would be their very first time of being added to the agile teams. So they were to collate data. In fact, basically, they were doing more than the job of a data analyst, and we too might do the same. The reason being that there are actually no data administrators in the organization. So we could play the dual role of data administrators and data analysts. So we would have to get data or advise on what type of data that should be gotten. So, for example, on the website, when students are logging in, we can have sample data like we can have a site, an already existing site from which we can get insights into what kind of data is required so as to replicate the same on our side. And that is what those guys actually did, right? That's what they did. So in fact, they actually advised the organization a lot on what kind of data that needs to be, how the data should be gotten, and all kinds of things, what kind of data that the organization was missing out on. So yes, that's a very good suggestion. I think we would have to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, our role is data analysis, and usually data should be given to us. But in a case where there is no data, assuming you've just joined an organization as a data analyst, And in fact, when that time I had already started teaching SQL in the organization, so some of them came to me and asked me that there's no data, so what should we do? And I told them what I'm going to tell you now. Assuming you've been employed as a data analyst in an organization and you've been given 100K a year, there is no data, but you are the data analyst. What will you do? Obviously, you would start gathering data, though that is not your primary role. But so that they see some usefulness in you, you will start gathering the data with which you would work with. So in that instance, you would technically be playing a dual role. Yeah. And actually, it would also expose you to the other side of things, and then you would know exactly what other people also go through in their daily jobs. And before you know it, you have become a data administrator. So basically, if you can do these things, create, alter, drop, in addition to these ones, you are a data administrator. Any other question?
Well, I just want to ask, how do we go about getting this exact SQL server you're using so that we can,
That is, a lot of people have asked me the same question, but I'm not sure I can export this same data to you. Reason being that the source from which I got this data, I have some NDA on it. So I'm not so sure, but I can look for, you know what? I'm going to show you something. Let's go to, there is this big site that produces, that